Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Well, thank you for everybody for coming. Rima has some virus, but she heroically still coming. She's still here. We can see her smiling face, at least. Okay, so we finished chapter 12 last week, and this week we will start with the chapter 13, which describes the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. So does anyone remember what are these 5 most potent forms? Or even if you don't remember all 5, then some of them. Nilacha Chandra Prabhu, please, yes.
Worshipping the deities.
Okay. Prema, you might have had something.
Yeah, I was thinking of chanting Hare Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, living in a holy place. I usually remember them, but the other ones have gone.
Okay, so we already got 4. Manjuali, thank you, Prema. Association of devotees. Was it Manjuali who had last week she had this mnemonic device A, B, C, D, E? So maybe you could share it again and then remember.
A is for association, B is for books, C is for chanting, D is for deity worship, and E is for environmental holy place.
Very good. So it might help us remember. This is the verse here. Sadhusanga Namakirtam Bhagavat Shravan Maturavas Shrimurtira Shadadaya Sevan. One should associate with devotees, so that's Sadhusanga. Chant the holy name, Namakirtan. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Shravan. Reside at Mathura, Mathuravas, and Shri Murtira Shradaya Sevana. Worship the deity with faith and veneration. So if you can remember either the mnemonic that Manjuali shared, or you can try to remember this verse, or you can just try to remember the items themselves. It's a good thing to try to remember these 5 most potent forms of devotional service. Because Lord Chaitanya says, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, and Rupa Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada, and all the acharyas, everybody says that these 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. Okay? And then Prabhupada says, even without faith in them, a person who is offenseless can awaken his dormant love of Krishna simply by being a little connected with them. So even if you don't have faith in living in or being in the holy dham, even if you don't have faith in association of devotees, if you just do it without offense, even a little bit, then it can awaken your dormant love for Krishna. You might not feel immediate ecstasy, but at least it will start you on the process. It will awaken your dormant love of Krishna. Sometimes, people just see the Harinam, and they might just join in to make fun of the devotees. They dance in some weird way, but that's the start of their devotional service that awakens their dormant love of Krishna. So because they weren't offensive, they were just kind of enjoying themselves a bit. Then that's the start of their devotional service. So this is a quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 22. That's where a lot of these principles from Nectar of Devotion are described. In fact, a lot of the things that we spoke about in general are described, but also these 64 items are described. And it says that a small attachment for any of these five, items can arouse devotional ecstasy even in a neophyte. So who remembers what's devotional service in ecstasy? What's the name of devotional service in ecstasy?
Is it Bhav? Jennifer
Very
Priya?
good. Yeah, very good. So Bhava Bhakti, excellent. So this refers to Bhava Bhakti. So even a small attachment for any of these five items can arouse devotional ecstasy even in a neophyte. So a neophyte refers to a kanishta with weak attachment. Prabhupada very fortunately included all these five items in the morning program or in the temple, let's say in the temple program. So can you think of how these five items are included in the temple program?
In the morning program, you associate with devotees.
Yeah, obviously you're doing it with the devotees, so you already have association of devotees. Very good.
And the deities are waking up. And
So even if you're not on the altar, Hare Krishna, Prema Vilasni Mataji, Radha Hari, and everybody who just joined. Praneshwari Mataji, nice to see you. So even if you're not on the altar dressing the deities, just by chanting in front of the deities, that's also service to the deities. So that's also Shri Murtiya Shadodaya Sevana. Okay, so we had association of devotees, worship of the deity. How else?
you do chanting around to
So obviously you got your japa time, you're chanting the holy name, and you're chanting kirtan, so that's also there. So Nama Kirtan is there. What else?
You're often hearing Srimad Bhagavatam because you're attending class following Guru Puja.
Exactly. So you got Srimad Bhagavatam class, so you hear Bhagavat Shravan. And what about the fifth one, residing in Mathura or in a holy place?
the temple is.
Yeah, temple is a holy place. So even if you can't go to Vrindavan or Mathura or Mayapur, a temple is a holy place because Krishna is there. A temple is a holy place because devotees are there. Yudhishthir Maharaj says to Vidura, Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirti Bhutas Svayam Vibhu. You know, great devotees like yourself are holy places of pilgrimage. And wherever you go, you make it into a holy place. Okay, because you carry Krishna in your heart. So wherever you go, Krishna is there. And wherever Krishna is, then that's a holy place. So even if there are no deities, maybe we live near a temple and there are no deities. But if there are devotees who carry Krishna in their heart, then that's a holy place. So this is how all five of these items are included in the temple program that Srila Prabhupada gave us. Now, what happens if we go for the morning program, but somehow we don't experience bhava? Why might that be?
Well, you're doing maybe as a reason, you're doing it for selfish reasons rather than to please Krishna.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're doing it for selfish reasons. So remember how it says that even a slight performance of these five awakens love for Krishna. Even without faith in them, a person who is offenseless can awaken his dormant love of Krishna. So if we commit offenses, then the devotional ecstasy might be a little further away. Okay, so it's not a reason to become kind of depressed, negative, discouraged. It's more just we should try to perform these items without offenses as much as possible. It's more than. And then when you read this chapter 13, then it goes through, it gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, from other books, how each of these items awakens bhava. Okay, so the first one is worship of the deity. It says, my dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who's standing on the bank of Keshigat. He's known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He's playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather. His whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky. So we have beautiful Krishna here. Now, I should have warned you. If you're going to look upon him, you might not be able to enjoy the material world. Okay, so be very careful. So Krishna is very, very beautiful. Peacock feather, moonlight, all the beautiful things. The Prabhupada says this verse is very beautifully composed. Rupa Goswami composed this verse in such a way that he was seemingly praising the material association of friendship and love, and was condemning the audience of Sri Murti of Govinda. This metaphorical analogy is constructed in such a way that things which seem to be praised are condemned, and things which are to be condemned are praised. So Rupa Goswami says, be really careful, because if you look upon Krishna's face, you might not be able to enjoy the material world anymore. So it's like a warning. Sometimes they put it on, I don't know, medicines or whatever. That you have to expect this side effect. Be careful. And why it's evidence that this item awakens love for Krishna is because one becomes detached from the material world, and indifference to the material world, virakti, is one of the symptoms of bhava. In a few chapters down the road, maybe next class or the class after that, we study all the symptoms of bhava, and one of them is virakti, or detachment from the material world. So this is evidence how worship of the deity, looking at the beautiful form of the deity, awakens bhava. Okay, I got a question for you, and I let you think about it for 30 seconds while I need to get a book. The question is it possible to fully enjoy the material world, material life after knowing Krishna? Is it possible to fully enjoy material life after knowing Krishna? Okay, and I'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay. Any thoughts?
So I'd say it's not possible to enjoy the world fully after knowing Krishna.
Okay.
Because, well, Krishna's transcendental, isn't he? So once you gain a taste for the transcendental, you're not so interested in the things that used to make the world go around here.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. So people, they're indulging in the things that we know are causes of bondage. That things can have a rebirth or a very bad karmic reaction. And that seems to be the sort of driving force behind a lot of the activity. So once you know Krishna, you don't want to come back here.
Yeah, so both philosophically, once you know Krishna, once you know the philosophy, you don't want to come back to this miserable world that causes suffering. And also once you know the transcendental, then you don't want anything lower. Anybody else like to share? Nilacha Chandraprabhu, please.
I'd say yes and no. But yes, in the sense that if you understand everything comes from Krishna and you understand that, then you're enjoying it not for yourself, but to please him.
Yeah, so that's like a higher understanding. So you don't want to just enjoy it for yourself, but you enjoy the material world as an opportunity to serve and please Krishna. But then, is it still the material world?
But I guess if you understand that, then it's transcendental, it's not material.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else like to add something?
Hare Krishna, Janava Priya.
Please, Radha Hari.
I just wanted to say that I think it's not possible to enjoy the material world after knowing Krishna, because once you get to know Krishna, you get to know the truth. Nothing is the same after that. Nothing compares to Krishna. So even if you try to enjoy the material world, it's just not possible to enjoy it anymore. It just it's like you almost get to the stage where you just see the material world as a place of misery. So nothing really compares.
Yeah, you're trying all the things that you used to enjoy, and somehow there's not the same taste.
Yeah, there's no satisfaction.
I have a friend, she was telling me that long time ago, she says, I met this girl on Sankirtan. At that point, we were maybe devotees 2-3 years, so not very long. She says, I met this girl on Sankirtan. She was a devotee for a few months. She lived in the ashram for a few months. And she says, after she left, it took her years to be able to enjoy the world again. It took her she had to make such a huge effort to try to forget Krishna. And she says, she asked me, do I want to know how she did it? So she thought, no, I don't really want to know. But the point is that even after 2 or 3 months of devotional service, I mean, she says she managed to forget Krishna, but obviously she didn't, because, she was there talking to a devotee. So even after, one it's like, obviously you don't go fishing, but there is this little, what do you call it, they could catch the fish. What is it called?
Like a hook.
A hook. Yeah. So there's this little hook. So Krishna has this hook. And once you know your mind, once you see Krishna, once you meet devotees, once you hear the holy name, it hooks your mind and then it just pulls you back.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's quite a dangerous thing.
Yeah. It is. It's like there's no going back. Once you find out about Krishna, there's no going back.
So we're all condemned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Radha Hari. So we got Praneshwari Mataji and then Divya Vrindavan. So Praneshwari Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna, Dhanupranam Mataji. I'm not sure how much I'm right, but I think the basic principle of enjoyment is like a happiness. And when we know Krishna, so we if we have a Krishna, we have everything. And what the 4 principles eating and everything, if we are eating, we will offer Krishna, so it become prasadam, it's become more tasty. Or if we have a Raj Bhog from temple, so it's become, it's like a Chappan Bhog Raj Bhog is like a most delicious thing in this world. So I think we will enjoy, according to outside people, we are enjoying materialistic things, but as internally we feel more happiness. I don't know from anybody UK who is the richest person, but in India there is one person, Ambani. He is known as Ambani. So, but we are more happy than Ambani. So Ambani is eating food, but we are eating prasadam. He is going for a world tour, but we are going for Dham Yatra. So the quantity is same, but the quality of enjoyment is oh my God, it's like unbelievable, infinite. And second thing, in this all enjoyment, the center is Krishna. So everything becomes transcendental and divine. So I think, yes, if we are with devotee with Krishna, then we can enjoy this life as well. And after this thing, base of this thing, we can get Golok Vrindavan Dham as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Sorry, Mataji. Hare
That
Krishna.
was very good. There's actually a book about the Grihastha ashram, and it's called Happy in This Life, Happy in Next Life. So how to live your life in such a way that, you know, you follow the principles of Dharma, you connect everything with Krishna, like Praneshwari Mataji says, you're going to eat anyway, so eat prasadam, eat the Rajbhoga. So it's actually even better than just, you know, eating some fast food or frozen food from Iceland, or what not Iceland, what is that place called where they sell all this frozen, anyway, so Iceland, okay. You can see I don't really go there. Yeah, so it's much nicer, so you can enjoy in this life in many ways much better than without Krishna, and then at the end you go back to Krishna. So that was really nice, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that. Divya Vrindavan?
Oh, sorry. I'll try and make it quite brief. I actually feel there's a little bit of dilemma in me when I think about this question, and I just kind of wanted to kind of reveal it really in terms of today, if that's okay, because we were visiting our family last week in the north of England, and I saw some friends, two girlfriends. I've not seen them maybe for like nearly 2 years. So maybe that was the reason, but I saw a lot of anxiety in them, and therefore it did make me really grateful. I was thinking of Krishna when we were together and such things, and I was just like feeling so relaxed. But then at the same time, I got a lot out of just the warmth of their contact in the sense of their familiarity. They were very enthusiastic to see me, and I still felt a heart connection with them in terms of our friendship, and I really, you know, I enjoyed my time with them. So it's kind of like, I understand the point about, you know, we can't enjoy, you know, and I have lost attachment for sense gratification and attraction for that. But I think, it was a bit of a challenge for me, I think, in the sense that, you know, I love these two girlfriends a lot. I care about them, don't see them very often anymore because we're here, and we can't be up there because there's just no devotee association. And I wouldn't want to be. But yeah, just that. I guess I still need to grow in my Krishna consciousness, and it's still about developing relationships in bhaktis and it with other devotees. But I think for me, that relationship connection is still a big attraction for me in the material world. Like, and even if I probably sometimes, and obviously when they're not devotees as well, which we need to be so cautious of, but I think I just know what my personality is like, and I guess I get attracted by. I'm such a people person, I realise. I like connection with others. I mean, I think a lot of us do. That's why we're back to yogis, you know, it's about relationships, isn't it? And so I just don't know if there's anyone's got any thoughts on that, or if you have, Jennifer, but I was just feeling a bit conflicted actually when I was sat here, because I was like, well, no, I don't think you can. But then there's this other element to it that I get a bit stuck on.
Okay, so anyone's got any thoughts on this? And then I also share my thoughts, but I want you to share it first, if anybody would like to.
Thank you. No problem if no one has.
I think Manju does, maybe Radhahari as well.
Hey Krishna, I thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's quite difficult, and I think for me, I like having friendships are very important to me. And when I meet with friends who aren't devotees, I kind of think about giving them my association, but not necessarily taking their association. So, you know, we can always lead by example, and sometimes people see changes in you and sort of ask, oh, you know, you look different, or, you know, you seem really happy. And then that's kind of a way you can like maybe do preaching, or, you know, just to reveal your mind in a way that I kind of try to keep those connections, mainly because I kind of think a lot of people have helped me on my journey to Krishna consciousness, and they haven't necessarily been Krishna conscious. So I think for me, I I'm not sure if it's right, but I keep the associations. But yeah, I don't always take on, or try not to be taking on their association so much.
Thank you, Manjari. Thank you very much. Radhahari, would you like to add something?
Hare Krishna, yes, please. Yes, Divya makes a really good point, and I really wanted to echo what Manjwali was saying, because I have a group of friends who I've been friends with since I was a kid. And of course, my path has gone in a different direction, but I still love the group of friends I have very much. And I would never turn my back on them, but our relationship has changed because the activities that we can do together have changed. But I still want to be there for them. I want to be there as a friend. I want to be able to be helpful to them. I want to be able to be of service to them, and be there, you know, whenever they need me. So yeah. So well, yeah, the time we have together has changed. I just don't want to turn my back on them. I still want to be friends, just doing it in a different sort of way, or different sorts of activities than we perhaps would have done, you know, 20 years ago.
Excellent, Radhahari. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if Prima Vilasni Mataji wants to say something, or
yeah, it's just a quick word. I mean, one, you know, recently King's Coronation, the program, I did watch. I wouldn't say I didn't, but you know, I was just hoping that it ends quickly, then I can start my Maharaj's lecture or morning program or evening program or on the TV.
actually Vishaka Mataji from the Manor, she was there at the coronation. You can even see her walk in.
Yes, she was there, yeah. You know, but the program was taking like quite long, so I was waiting to end. So we have a little bit of higher taste than this normal, you know, TV program.
Thank you, Mataji. So
Thank you.
do these things, but there's also a higher taste, I think. So I don't think I can really add anything. You explained it really nicely, and really, that's really good. Very happy to hear this. Is it okay, Divya Vrindavan? Yeah, okay. Okay, so the next thing is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So we heard how by worshipping the deity we can awaken Baba. The next verse explains how by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam we can awaken Baba. So it's a similar verse that seems to praise or like similarly composed verse. My dear foolish friend, I think that you have already heard some of the auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam, which decries seeing the results of fruitive activities, economic development, and liberation. I think that now it is certain that gradually the verses of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the pastimes of the Lord, will enter your ears and go into your heart. There's a similar thing, that it was really foolish of you to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, because now you're not going to care about economic development, sense enjoyment, or even liberation. So now you can suffer the consequences. And this not caring about liberation is this moksha laguta krita. Remember, one of the qualities of Bhava Bhakti is that it derides liberation. It gives so much more happiness that liberation becomes insignificant. Okay. The next verse describes association of devotees or serving a devotee.
Can I just ask a question here?
Yeah, please, Jayananda Prabhu.
So what exactly is meant by liberation?
Moksha. So it's not that devotees don't get liberated. Actually, at the stage of Bhava, devotees do become liberated from the material world, but they don't desire liberation. So they don't practice spiritual life to become liberated. They practice spiritual life to please Krishna. And liberation is like a side effect. that comes.
What does liberation mean, though? What does liberation mean?
Becoming free from the three modes of material nature.
Okay, great, thanks.
So transcendental means beyond the modes, beyond the material world. That's liberated. Okay. So the next one is serving a devotee. It is very astonishing that since I have seen this personality of Godhead, who is washed by the tears of my eyes, there is shivering of my body, and he has made me a failure in executing my material duties. Since seeing him, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to him always. So now this verse seems to refer to seeing the form of the Lord, not so much serving a devotee, but Prabhupada says, the purport of this statement is that as soon as one is fortunate enough to contact a pure devotee, one must be anxious immediately to hear about Krishna, to learn about Krishna, or in other words, to become fully Krishna conscious. And this anxiety or intense eagerness to hear about Krishna is called samutkanta. So that's one of the qualities of bhava. And also avyarta kalatvam, which is that you don't want to waste even a moment. And that's because he says, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to Krishna always. So these are all symptoms of bhava. Okay. The next one is chanting the holy names. Chanting the holy names awakens bhava. It is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the veena in the hands of Narada, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now this same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I'm always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality. Gradually, I'm becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. So all these verses that I'm reading now are here in this chapter 13. So this was the hearing Srimad Bhagavatam verse. Then this was the association of devotees verse. And then this is the Nama Kirtan, chanting the holy names. So again, I'm becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. This is the same quality, becoming uninterested in material life, is viraktir, it's called. And then the last one is residing in Mathura. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Yamuna River, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization and bliss. So Jiva Goswami says that this transcendental realization of beauty and bliss refers to the mental realization of one's eternal serving mood, which occurs at Bhava Bhakti. So before Bhava Bhakti, we kind of cook in the kitchen or dig holes or distribute books or whatever our services in this world. But at Bhava Bhakti, we realize how we are going to serve Krishna in the spiritual world. So whether you're a cowherd boy and you play with Krishna, or you're making Krishna's lunchbox, or you setting up Krishna's dress for Mother Yashoda to dress him, or whatever your service is going to be. So at Bhava Bhakti, that realization of service is coming. Okay. And then Prabhupada says that it may seem like that the results of these 5 items are overestimations. So we might say, well, I've been chanting for so many years. I see so many devotees around me chanting for so many years, and none of them seem to be shivering in ecstasy. So it's probably a little bit of an exaggeration, it's just to get people to chant. So Prabhupada explains that these are not overestimations. Prabhupada says, in these statements about devotional service, sometimes it may appear that the results have been overestimated, but actually there is no overestimation. So it means that it's true in some cases, in certain cases, and it's intended intended to describe the potential or the power of that item to awaken bhava. Okay, so when you chant the holy name has all power to awaken bhava. Whether you manage to chant it with, purely enough, attentively enough, without offenses enough, then that's another thing. But it has the potential to awaken this bhava. Some devotees, as revealed scriptures give evidence, have had immediate results by such association, although this is not possible for all. For example, Bilva Mangal Thakur simply heard about Krishna and then immediately gave up his beautiful girlfriend and started out for Mathura and Vrindavan, where he became a perfect Vaishnava. So these statements are not overestimations, nor are they stories, they are actual facts, but are true for certain devotees and not necessarily apply to all. Okay, is this understandable? Is this okay? Any points or questions? Kat, please.
Like, I was just wanting to ask, like, when that stage comes, like, how do you know that we're not just imagining it and we know that it's like actually happening?
Okay, so this is a really good question. Thank you, Kat, for asking. So there are two answers that I heard for this. One is that it's like you can't mistake it for anything else. But the other thing is that you also confirm it with your spiritual master or with like other devotees, mentors. So it's not that you're gonna chat about it on the temple corridor or something, that I saw Krishna yesterday and he told me I'm going to cook his dinner or something like that. But we should have either our Diksha Guru, or if he's got so many disciples that we can't have like a day-to-day or kind of interactions or relationship with him, we should have some older devotees who are our mentors that we can turn to, take shelter in these cases, and then we can speak to them about these things, and then they will be able to confirm that it's true. There are other qualifications as well that make it clear whether it's just an imagination or it's real, meaning like your own qualifications where you are in devotional service. I'm hoping that by the end of this Nectar of Devotion course, it will be somewhat clearer of, what things we should experience, what are the symptoms. And I really, really recommend this book. It's called Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. And really nicely describes the different stages of devotion. It's all based on Prabhupada's books, mainly Nectar of Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Different stages, what are the symptoms, and also what kind of practice you should have at that stage. So what books to read, how to chant, how to associate. Okay, so it's a really, really good, very practical book. It just pulls together all the information from Prabhupada's books and also Maharaj's experiences. I read it 5 times. I took notes from it. I can't say I know it, but I found it really, really helpful, and it's both very practical and also very philosophical. It's really good. It's a really good book. I don't know, Jayananda Prabhu, if you are in ecstasy. Okay. I'm glad you also like the book. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mata, what's the name of the book?
It's called Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. I put it up on the WhatsApp.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Thank you.
Class.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes when we hear about not just these 5 items of devotional service, but all the 64, remember, worshipping banyan trees and following Ekadasi and all these other items, sometimes material rewards are mentioned. So it doesn't say that you're going to attain bhava, but it says that you can have good sons, or you know, for every Ekadasi, I don't know if you, there's a story for every Ekadasi, how it came about, and then what are the blessings, you know, whatever. So these things are often there to attract more materialistically minded people to start following these items of devotional service. So we don't follow Ekadasi to have good sons. If good sons come anyway, then that's an extra, but we follow Ekadasi to please Krishna. And we know that the actual result is Bhava Bhakti. Another point is that in Kali Yuga, remember, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Eva Kevalam, Nasteva Gati Ranyata. That in Kali Yuga, whatever other items we perform of devotional service, it should always be accompanied by chanting the holy names. Okay, so whether you worship banyan trees or Tulsi Devi or follow Ekadasi or live in a holy place or whatever else, the chanting of the holy names should always be there. Chanting cleanses the heart, and the service attitude leads to offenseless chanting. So it kind of they help each other. So by chanting, our heart becomes more pure, then we can have more of a service attitude, and then more of a service attitude leads to more offenseless chanting, which purifies the heart even more. So it's always good to chant. Even when we're doing mundane tasks, you know, we're washing the dishes, driving or something, we can chant. Like, I'm not saying when you're driving, chant your rounds. That's a different thing. But you can just sing to yourself, especially if there's nobody else in the car to have a heart attack, you know, hearing your voice. Or at least with me, I have to be very careful because I can't sing. But the point, anyway, I'm regressing. But the point is that even with seemingly mundane tasks, you can chant. Okay. Now, I wanted to read a little bit from this book, this Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, about if you can't perform all the different items of devotional service, which one is most important, which one you should do. So I'm going to find the place. Okay, so we should know that while devotees chant the holy name, while chant the Lord's holy names and glories, they automatically hear the name. That hearing is contained in the process of chanting. Again confirms the foremost position of chanting. Both chanting Hare Krishna in private, japa, and chanting loudly in public, kirtan, must be performed. Both aloud chanting of japa and public kirtan are parts of Sankirtan. Jiva Goswami writes, Bahubir militva kirtanam sankirtanam. When many devotees are assembled together to enjoy the chanting of the Lord's glories, such chanting is called Sankirtan. Okay, and then another point. What if a devotee cannot perform all these items of devotional service and must select one? A devotee can complete all 9 limbs of devotional service described in the Bhagavatam by practicing the 5 stressed by Rupa Goswami. So all 9 limbs refer to, remember those 9 things: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. But if you can't do all 9, then at least do these 5. Of those 5, 3 are foremost: associating with devotees, chanting Hare Krishna, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So associating with devotees, chanting the holy names, and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the 3 most important of the 5. Of these 3, the first 2 are indispensable, meaning associating with devotees and chanting Hare Krishna. But if circumstances force devotees to choose only one, they should select the chanting of the Lord's holy names. Okay. Recently, I heard a devotee say that you can be disappointed in anything and anyone in this world, except the holy names. So the holy names will always give you shelter. They will never let you down. You will never be disappointed. You will never find out that they did something outrageous. Okay, so the holy name is always a safe shelter. Okay. Okay, and the next Prabhupada starts speaking about Varna and Ashram. So it starts this topic of other practices like Varnashram, Jnana. What is Jnana? Knowledge, yeah. Knowledge or cultivating knowledge. Are these things items of devotional service? And if they are not, then what is their relationship to devotional service? So Rupa Goswami explains that Varnashram is not directly an item of devotional service. So doing your Varnashram duty, being a good father, a good mother, doing your job nicely, that's not an item of devotional service. But for a devotee who's not kind of fully attracted to unalloyed glorification of Krishna, then Varnashram may be used to regulate and purify material desires. For example, marriage. Being a good wife, a good husband, a good father, a good mother, it's not going to make you go back to Goloka Vrindavan. But being in a stable family life, so you can peacefully perform devotional service and develop your relationship to Krishna, that will help you go back to Goloka. So in that sense, if Varnashram helps you in your devotional service, then you can say it's a subsidiary item of devotional service. Is this clear? Is this understandable? Okay. But if Varnashram just, it's on its own, it's not aimed at purification, not aimed at developing a relationship with Krishna or eventual complete surrender, then it's not an item of devotional service. The Prabhupada says, some scholars argue that simply by following the principles of Varna and Ashram, one can gradually rise to the perfections reached by practicing devotional service, but this argument is not accepted by the great authorities. So it's here. Lord Chaitanya also condemned this idea while he was talking with Ramananda Roy. So Lord Chaitanya was asking Ramananda Roy, what is the best thing? What is the goal of life? And Ramananda Roy gave all different answers. And each one of the answers was Varnashram. And Lord Chaitanya, each time he says, Eko Bai, or something like that, that this is external. And until Ramananda Roy said it's following the love of the gopis, the Lord Chaitanya kept saying, this is external, this is external, this is external. Of course, it's a gradual thing, but the point is that Varnashram, it can be helpful, but it's not on its own, it's not going to take us back to Godhead. It's not going to develop love of God. Okay. Okay, next, chapter 14. So this kind of continues what started in at the end of chapter 13. Rupa Goswami started analyzing devotional qualifications. So already in chapter 5, we spoke about how birth, purity, varnashram situation, these are not qualifications they're not prerequisites for starting devotional service. Or they're not prerequisites for continuing devotional service. So this chapter especially focuses on jnana and vairagya. So we know jnana is knowledge. Who remembers what is vairagya? Divya Vrindavan, I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you.
It's because I don't think I'm right. I don't know. Is it detachment? No.
Yeah, it's renunciation, detachment.
Renunciation.
Yeah, very good. So jnana and vairagya. So jnana and vairagya, knowledge and renunciation, they may be helpful in the very beginning by helping freeing one from the distractions of material life or the material or sense objects. But jnana and vairagya on their own, they don't fix one's mind on Krishna. So they help us kind of move away from other things, but on their own, they're not going to fix our mind on Krishna. So they are not items of devotional service on their own. It's a little bit like varnashram. Another point is that they can make the heart hard. Okay? So how does jnana and vairagya make the heart hard? Any thoughts on this? How does knowledge and renunciation make the heart hard? Vyacharya Chandra Prabhu?
With knowledge, you sort of understand theoretically you're supposed to do it this way. And when you don't, you start actually, instead of it helping you overcome it, it actually stops you. So instead of being emotionally attached, you start sort of more looking at it and saying, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that.
Okay, so it can kind of start discouraging you or make you feel negative.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
Okay, so the more you know of what you should be doing but not doing it, you just become depressed.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, and the other bits again with detachment, it's similar in the sense that you do, like Mataji were talking about having that relationship, and you're like, oh, should I really have this relationship? Should I not have?
Okay, that's a very good point again. Yeah, good, thank you. Any other thoughts?
I don't know, I just had a thought. I don't know if it keeps you quite a lot on the mental platform. It's taking you away from the heart a lot. You know, it's this emphasis on thinking and maybe not necessarily speculating, but it's not very personal to the heart. I don't know if that...
Okay, it's a really good point. So Krishna consciousness is supposed to be about relationships, emotions, and it becomes too kind of cerebral, like too brainy. Anything else? Kat?
Yeah, like not really about knowledge, but more about renunciation. Like if we renounce maybe beyond our level, and if we try to renounce too much, we might think about is trying to achieve that platform before we're ready, and that might take away from us thinking about Krishna, and also it might make us hard-hearted with the fact that we're kind of upset and angry all the time because we're just too focused on that, and that kind of hampers our relationship with Krishna and the devotees.
Very good, very good. So we decide we're going to fast on Ekadasi. The point of fasting on Ekadasi is that you have more time to hear and chant. But instead of hearing and chanting more, you're just feeling frustrated, not eating. You feel maybe a little angry at other devotees who are eating, or maybe not angry, but you feel a bit frustrated. So it's not very conducive in that way. Prema, you got something?
Yeah, I've been thinking very similarly to what Kat just said, and a follow-on from that is instead of looking internally and developing our relationships, sometimes we're looking externally at behaviours, and it makes us not only strict and hard-hearted with ourselves, but sometimes it can make us judgmental and hard-hearted with other people. So it becomes other people realisation rather than for ourselves.
It's a very, very good point. Yes. Yes. So sometimes we mistake spiritual advancement with austerity or something, but it's not the same thing. And like you say, heart-hearted with others, not just with ourselves. Thank you, Prema. Thank you. Also, you can, with knowledge, you kind of all mentioned these things. I just also wanted to put it in a slightly different, from a different perspective. Knowledge and philosophy are good things. But if you start seeing everything too philosophically, then it can make you hard-hearted and cold. Okay, so let's say that there's a devotee who's suffering, maybe some emotional problems, from his past, or, he's got some marriage problems or some family issues, or he lost his job or whatever, he's got some problems. And then you go up to him and you say, Prabhu, it's your karma. You deserve it. In one sense, it's true, this is how devotees should look at things. It's my karma, but you should. That's not the way to kind of help someone or kind of give him emotional support so he can feel, oh, the devotees understand me. They are supportive. I should take shelter more of devotees or Krishna, like that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, so this is what happens when we start seeing things too philosophically. And the similar thing with renunciation, you also mentioned that too much renunciation actually takes away from thinking about Krishna, because we become too kind of frustrated. And also it can create pride. Just as too much knowledge sometimes can create pride. I'm better than everybody else. I know more shlokas than everybody else. Or I'm more renounced than everybody else. I chant more rounds than everybody else. I follow Ekadasi more strictly than everybody else. So instead of creating humility, which is, a wonderful devotional quality, it creates pride and creates hard-heartedness, looking down on others, or thinking, I'm suffering like hell with all these austerities, but at least I'm better than everybody else. So then you're not getting your taste from your devotional practices, you're getting taste from feeling you're better than everybody else. Okay, so these are things we need to be careful of. So this is how jnana and vairagya can make the heart hard, even though devotees should have very soft hearts. Devotional service, chanting should soften the heart, so we can develop a relationship with Krishna and with the devotees. Okay. So this process of jnana and vairagya are unfavorable for the reasons we just described, but the qualities of knowledge and detachment are necessary. So detachment from matter. But they develop as part of devotional service. Automatically, this verse in first canto, chapter 2, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. So Janayat Ashu means quickly, Janayat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam. Vairagya Jnanam, Vairagyam, Janayat Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. So causeless knowledge and detachment develop in a devotee. So just by doing devotional service. And you can only know Krishna by devotional service. No matter how many books you read, how many shlokas you learn, it's only by devotional service. You probably have this experience that you read Bhagavad Gita, and then you do maybe a few years of devotional service, and you read Bhagavad Gita again. And Bhagavad Gita becomes much, 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 much more meaningful. Because Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, is a person, is Krishna. So Krishna reveals himself on the pages of Bhagavad Gita according to your kind of surrender, or your giving yourself to Krishna, your devotional service. Okay. And this brings up this topic of renunciation, how renunciation or austerity works in devotional service. And there are these two verses. As far as I remember, you're supposed to learn them. So these are one of the shlokas, or two of the shlokas you're supposed to learn. So one is this Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatartam Upayanjata Nirbanda Krishna Sambande Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Kat, would you be able to read the translation?
Where is it?
It's on the slide. It's this slide. This is the translation. Ah, lost. Sorry, this is the translation.
You haven't shared.
Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm talking. I'm showing you all these things, and I've just forgot to share the screen. My apologies. Can somebody tell me these things, you know, like towards the end of, like at the beginning of the class, if I space out? I'm really.
I was just thinking this is a different class. We've got no slides literally just then.
I can see them, so I thought everybody else can. This is called force ego, that you see the world through your own force ego. You think that everybody sees the same as you do. Okay, so my humble request, next time, if I don't share the screen, please climb this. I was showing you all these books and, you know, all the words and everything. Anyway, okay, so next time, please tell me. Okay, this is the translation. I think that disappeared.
I still can't see it.
Okay, can anyone else see it? Because I think I shared it.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, maybe Prema, would you be able to read it? Or...
The Vairagya, renunciation of that person who employs objects suitable for devotional development while remaining detached from them, is said to be suitable for bhakti. The object should be persistently related to Krishna.
Thank you, Preman. I forgot not to ask you. I'm sorry. Kat, can you still not see it?
No.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I stop sharing it and reshare it. Might help. Okay. Any better? Worse? Can the other devotees see it? Okay, Praneshwari Mataji said it's okay. Okay, Kat, maybe just on the recording, then my apologies. Yeah, I was showing you this beautiful picture of Krishna and everything. Anyway, okay.
In that time, Mataji, I was thinking, where is Krishna? There you said, na, you can see beautiful face of Krishna.
Yeah, this
I
is Krishna. This is the Krishna I was showing you.
Yeah, we can see now.
And then these were the 5 items of devotional service. Anyway, okay. Okay. So this means that we spoke about vairagya or renunciation. So real renunciation is accepting things in relation to Krishna and using them in Krishna's service. Okay. It's a little bit similar to what we started Bhakti Shastri course with, the first verse of Nectar of Instruction, how to control the urges, is by engaging them in Krishna's service. Not by not using them, but by engaging them in Krishna's service. So it's the same with renunciation. You don't just get rid of everything, but you use it in Krishna's service. So accept things, and this is called Yukta Vairagya. So Yukta means to connect. It's like yoga, that kind of word. And Vairagya is renunciation. So it's renunciation by connecting things to Krishna. Accept only things that can be used in Krishna's service and reject other things. So the standard of what we accept and what we reject is not our personal likes and dislikes, but what we can use in Krishna's service and what we can't use in Krishna's service. Okay? Now, it's going to be different for different people. Okay? So some people have no problem using social media and Facebook and all this kind of thing for preaching. And other people, they get really distracted by it. Okay, other devotees. So it's an individual thing. Can I use it in Krishna's service? Or is Maya using this? Or using me? You know? Okay, so what's Yukta Vairagya for one person may be attachment and dangerous for another person. And then the other verse speaks about the wrong kind of renunciation. As a prapanchikataya bhutya hari sambandhi vastana mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam phagu kataye. Radhahari, could you read the translation? Or maybe Manjuari?
Hare Krishna, sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. Rejection of things related to the Lord by persons desiring liberation who think that these things are simply material objects is called useless vairagya, renunciation.
Okay, so it means that rejecting things without considering their relationship with Krishna. So I think at the beginning of the class we spoke about how the whole world becomes a spiritual world. I think it was Nilachar Chandra Prabhu was saying that by engaging things in Krishna's service, it's not even the material world anymore. It's all spiritual. But sometimes people reject this, saying that it's all material. We don't consider that this is Krishna's energy and it should be used in Krishna's service. So we got some examples, like Facebook, being on the beach. There is this brahmachari standing in the sea, and he may be okay and he can preach really nicely. You can see that even he's careful to approach another man and not a lady in a bikini. It can be quite disturbing. So interacting with matter always has risks. So every time we have to consider, is my mood to serve Krishna, or am I just using it as an excuse? Am I using Yukta Vairagya as an excuse? Am I using matter in Krishna's service, or is matter using me in Maya's service? Okay, so this is an individual thing. We are all different. We're all going to have different things that we can or cannot engage. And that's why we need to have this kind of way to judge what we should and shouldn't do. So the Vairagya or renunciation will be different for a temple pujari, for a book distributor, or for a devotee businessman. So the external manifestation will be different. A temple pujari might not even leave the temple for months on end. He just gets up, has a shower, and does his artis and pujas and cooking, and then goes back, chants his rams, goes back to bed. And it's just, he's only going between his room and the pujari place, and deities. A Sankirtan devotee will be in the temple, but during the day he's, you could say he's in the material world, approaching people, chatting with people, selling them books. So his external behavior is very different from someone who's just totally, or his waking hours are with, the deity. And then you got a devotee businessman who might only be able to go to the temple on Sundays or every second Sunday, and he has to interact with the world, in so many different ways. But if his internal mood is renunciation, he's doing it to maintain his family, so he can peacefully practice Krishna consciousness, maybe give some of the fruits of his work to Krishna, then the renunciation is the same. The mood is the same. It's just the external activities might be different because they engage different things in Krishna's service. Is this understandable? Okay. So Prabhupada also used many things, Prabhupada used a typewriter. I think he even writes about this. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna consciousness movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and the effect, and nothing belongs to us. Krishna's things must be used in the service of Krishna. That is our vision. So this is really deep. Prabhupada says, nothing belongs to us, which means nothing is actually us to renounce. Okay? So if you don't have something, you can't renounce it. Okay? So instead of trying to forcefully renounce something that's not even yours anyway, why not engage it in Krishna's service? Why not engage it in the service of the person it actually belongs to? Okay. So if we have this vision, then we can see, okay, everything should be used in Krishna's service. The only question is, can I use it? Am I the right person to use it in Krishna's service? And then sometimes, it may be difficult for us to know, but then again, we got Sadhu Guru Shastra, we got the spiritual master, all their devotees, scriptures to help us decide. Okay. Okay. In the 11th canto, Uddhava asks Krishna, what is real austerity? Since we're talking about renunciation, what is real austerity? And Krishna says, renunciation of lust is real austerity. Renunciation of lust is real austerity. So how does this relate to what we've been speaking? What is lust? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains lust and love. So he says, lust is trying to satisfy our own senses, Atmandriya Pritivancha. And love is trying to satisfy or please Krishna's senses, Krishnandriya Priti Icha. So renunciation of lust is real austerity. It means if you give up the desire to satisfy your own senses or to please your own senses, that's real renunciation. Okay? So it really nicely ties in with what we've been speaking about. Having said that, just renouncing in itself is not going to awaken love of God. So just, following the 4 regulative principles or, just giving up things, it doesn't awaken love of God. That's why we need this Yukta Vairagya to also connect those things with Krishna. To not just give up trying to please ourselves, but also start trying to please Krishna. Okay? So this initial renunciation of, for example, following the 4 regulative principles, it creates a good kind of field or good preliminary conditions for sowing the seeds of bhakti. I don't know how much gardening any of you do. I know Jayananda Prabhu does a lot of weeding. But before you sow seeds, you need to prepare the ground. Because if you're just going to throw these seeds on, it's full of all sorts of weeds and it's really hard, and then you might get 1 or 2 seeds germinating, but they're going to be suffocated by the weeds, and it's not going to be really good. So it's best to weed the ground, maybe dig it up a little bit, and maybe add some cow manure or something to have more nutrition in the ground, and then sow your seeds. So this kind of 4 regulative principles, that's preparing the ground. On its own, nothing's going to grow. So just by weeding and preparing the ground, nothing's going to grow. You also need the seeds, which is bhakti. But if you sow the seeds in ground that's nicely prepared, then you're going to have very nice, healthy plants that grow very quickly, and quickly give you the fruits of love of God. Okay, so understand we need kind of both. So this Varnashram or Jnana, Vairagya, these things can prepare the ground, but don't forget that the most important thing is the seed. Prabhupada then also speaks about wealth and followers, how it's easy to be carried away by them, and preachers should be very careful. Prabhupada says, sometimes if a spiritual master is not properly authorized and only on his own initiative becomes a spiritual master, he may be carried away by an accumulation of wealth and a large number of disciples. He is not a very high grade of devotional. His is not a very high grade of devotional service. If a person is carried away by such achievements, then his devotional service becomes slackened. Okay, so it's not just if you are an initiating spiritual master, but, you know, any, how would you say, facilities or advantages that come from devotional service. Okay, you might, you know, get some donations, or some people might think, oh, you give really nice classes and start glorifying you, or whatever, you know. So we need to be very careful not to be carried away by that. Okay. Another point Prabhupada speaks about is regulations, like they call it yama. So following these regulations, for example, like the 4 regulative principles, they are helpful, but in themselves, they don't give love of God. There's a past time when Lord Chaitanya used to do these nightly kirtans, and there was this person who really wanted to see it. So one of the devotees went to Lord Chaitanya and said, can you, Lord Chaitanya would only let devotees into the kirtan, so there's a nice mood. So this devotee told Lord Chaitanya that this person really wants to see the kirtan, and he's very qualified, he's very renounced, he's very austere, he's a brahmachari, he only drinks milk, he's very, very austere. And Lord Chaitanya said, you can't attain Krishna by only drinking milk. Okay, so you can be very renounced, but just renunciation on its own is not going to let you attain Krishna. So it may be helpful, you know, just like preparing the ground, but you also need the bhakti. And it also means that the devotees, sometimes they don't have all the good qualities, but they don't need to wait for all the good qualities to develop before they can start devotional service. Because devotional service itself will help develop these good qualities. Prabhupada says the quality of non-violence, which is considered a good qualification, but a devotee is naturally non-violent and therefore doesn't have to practice non-violence separately. Some people seek purification by joining a vegetarian movement, but a devotee is automatically a vegetarian. He doesn't need to practice separately in this matter or to join any society of vegetarians. He's automatically a vegetarian. Okay, so Prabhupada gives this example of non-violence or being vegetarian, but it's for other qualities as well. So we don't need to separately practice or wait till we become like that and then start devotional service. And the example that's given for this is Mrigari, the hunter. So I don't know how much you know the story. There was this on the left. You see how a cruel hunter became a saint. So he was, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this pastime is described. He was very, very cruel. He was a hunter by profession, which is bad enough. But the way his father taught him how to hunt is to only half kill animals. So he would shoot his arrows and watch the animals slowly die in great suffering. So he was very, very cruel. And Narada Muni, as he does, came along and asked him, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm a hunter. This is how I was taught to hunt. And then Narada Muni showed him what awaits him in his next life. And obviously. Also, Narada Muni is a great devotee, so anyone who meets him gets the seed of devotional service. So he taught him to just break his bow and arrows. And then the hunter said, yeah, but how am I going to live? You know, this is how I make my living. He says, don't worry, you know, I send you some food. So the hunter had great faith in Narada Muni. He broke his bow and arrow and just went home and started following the practices of devotional service as Narada Muni asked. He was chanting. And then some months later, Narada Muni with his friend Parvata Muni, he came back to see how his disciple, the hunter Mrigari, is doing. Mrigari means the enemy of animals. So Mriga is animal and Ari means an enemy. So Mrigari. So first of all, they saw this hunter who completely transformed. And when the hunter saw his spiritual master, he wanted to pay his obeisances. But before paying his obeisances, there were some ants on the road, and he kind of swept them away with his cloth. So this person who used to really enjoy seeing the suffering of animals, he didn't want to hurt even an ant. So that's how much his heart changed. And then he told Narada Muni that, yes, I'm looked after wonderfully. I usually get more food than we can even eat. So Krishna is really looking after you by your mercy. So this is the story that's quite often given, how by devotional service, the heart changes, all the good qualities develop. Okay, and then at the end of the chapter, Prabhupada speaks about the 9 processes of devotional service. Who remembers what are these 9 processes? So these are not the 5 most important items, but a slightly different. There's the Nava Anga Bhakti. Who remembers what are these 9 or some of them? Some of them are the same as the 5 items. Okay, Nilacha Chandra Prabhu and then Prema.
Hearing, chanting,
Okay, hearing, chanting. Okay, Prema.
Remembering Krishna, offering prayers, serving the deity, becoming a servant, becoming a friend of the Lord, and Atmanivedanam, offering myself, body, mind, and soul. Don't know if I've missed any.
And then the 9th is serving the lotus feet of the Lord. That was really good. You know, getting it. So these are the 9 processes: Shravanam, hearing; Kirtanam, chanting; Smaranam, remembering; Archanam, serving the deity; Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet; Vandanam, offering prayers; Dasyam, servitorship; Sakyam, friendship; and Atmanivedanam, full self-surrender. And for each of them, you see there is a little picture, because there is a personality who achieved or attained perfection by that process. So they consider the symbol of that process. So Shravanam, hearing, is Parikshit Maharaj. He attained perfection by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And Kirtanam, chanting, is Shukadev Goswami. He attained perfection by chanting, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Smaranam, remembering, is Prahlad Maharaj. He was always remembering Krishna, even when, you know, these demons were trying to kill him, or he was thrown off the cliff, or whatever. It's always remembering Krishna. So Smaranam. Vandanam, offering prayers, is Akrura. There's this famous prayers of Akrura when he's taking Krishna and Balaram to Mathura, and they take a bath, and he sees them both, like both places. And then, no, actually it's not there. It's when he's entering Vrindavan and he sees the lotus footprints of Krishna, and then he offers prayers. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet, is Lakshmi Devi, always massaging the lotus feet of Vishnu. Archanam, serving the deity, is Prithu Maharaj. Dasyam is Hanuman, serving Lord Ramachandra. Sakyam is Arjuna, Krishna's friend. And Atmanivedanam, full self-surrender, is Bali Maharaj, who gave everything to Vamanadev. Vamanadev took the whole universe with 2 steps, and he says, where do I put the 3rd step? And he says, on my head, full self-surrender. And then Prabhupada explains that even by, you can perform 1 items, 2 items, 3, but even by 1, you can attain perfection. And then some devotees do all of them. He says, if we are engaged in execution of all the items of devotional service, as was Maharaj Ambarish, then the perfection of devotional service is guaranteed from each one of these items. With the first complete engagement, one becomes automatically detached from material contamination, and liberation becomes the maidservant of the devotee. The maidservant of the devotee means that the devotee doesn't want liberation, but liberation is happy to be there, happy to serve the devotee. Okay, so this chapter 14 is the last chapter on Vaidhi Bhakti. Anyone remembers what Vaidhi Bhakti is?
Is it devotional service and practice?
That's sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti is part of sadhana bhakti.
So following devotional service, following the rules and regulations.
Exactly. So it's kind of devotees follow rules and regulations, even Raganuga Bhakti and higher levels, but here the motivation for bhakti is the rules and regulations. So the reason I'm chanting 16 rounds is because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I promised my spiritual master, or maybe so I don't go to hell. So this is the motivation. And then Raganuga Bhakti, that we'll start studying next week, then the motivation is an intense desire and a greed to attain Krishna. Okay, so this was the last chapter on Vaidhi Bhakti. And Prabhupada explains that this Vaidhi is sometimes also called Maryada. Maryada is like rules, regulations. Lord Ramachandra is called Maryada Purushottam because he always really, really nicely followed all the rules and regulations. So Prabhupada says, Srila Rupa Goswami says that the regulative principles of devotional service are sometimes described by authorities as the path of serving the Lord in opulence. So this is a more official kind of rules, regulations based devotional service, this Vaidhi Bhakti. And then next week, we'll start Raganuga Bhakti. Okay. So any last points, questions? What we spoke about? Okay. So thank you very much for your association. I really appreciate it. All these things you kind of contribute to the class. I find it very inspiring. I'm very grateful to you. And I'm very happy to see you every Friday. Okay. So, Shri Bhaktirasamrita Sindhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Rupa Goswami ki jai.
Jai.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you much.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
very much.